I wasn't even in the 30 to go to the Wenger. So now Arsene Wenger's ended up phoning Glenn Hoddle, why is Ray not in the squad? And he said he disrespected my faith. And that was it. That was the end of my England reign under Glenn Hoddle. You want to hope that manager gets sacked so you get another opportunity. And that's what Arsene Wenger said. I'm Ray Parlour, and this is Behind the Headlines. Well, I was the youngest of three boys. Obviously, my dad was a big football fan, West Ham supporter. Joined the club at 7 years old, Sunday team, and then you never look back after that. Really, it was a great upbringing. My dad, obviously, didn't really see him during the week. He was all out working. My mum would bring us up and take us to school and this and that. And then we saw my dad at weekends when all the football was going on. And he used to take all the boys around. Obviously couldn't take all of us, so he had to keep swapping to watch my older brother first, the older one. And then my middle brother, he'd go and watch him the following week, and then he'd watch me the following week. So, he loved it though. My dad loved seeing, his boys playing football. And there was only one live game a year, which was the cup final. So we used to love the build-up. We made a big thing of our family to watch the cup final. My dad would pull his curtains, he'd come out and have a beer. All us lot would be sitting there drinking oranges. My mum would bring all the sandwiches out, and whoever was in the cup final, it didn't matter. It was a big day in our household to watch the build-up. And the build-up was the best bit. So you're sitting there as a kid, thinking, "Wow, this is amazing. One day, can I ever be a footballer?" And and that probably spurred you on a little bit as well. West Ham were playing Arsenal in the cup final. Trevor Brooking scored a header, and they was in the division below West Ham. And they beat Arsenal, who was a good side at that stage, 1-0. And I was a young kid, and my dad took me down to the town hall to watch him bring the trophy out. And I was going, wow, this is amazing. All these fans come out to see West Ham. And that was the moment I always remember, because my dad was a West Ham fan. And and we all probably, that was my first ever kit I got bought as a Christmas present, was a West Ham kit. So in the end, obviously I played for Arsenal my career. But my dad always says to me now, you made the right decision, son, because Arsenal's a great club. Well, I signed for Arsenal at a young age, at like 11 years old, and after that there was only one team I wanted to play for. I scored a few times at Upton Park as well, which my dad wasn't happy. It was one of them situations where he didn't talk to me for a few days, but it was always great banter, and I think the West Ham fans knew I come from that sort of area. So they sort of left me alone a little bit when I played at Upton Park, because that was one of the hostile grounds to play at. Well, my personal hero at that age was nothing to do with West Ham, nothing to do with Arsenal. It was Brian Robson, who was a midfielder who I really admired, because he had a bit of everything. He could pass the ball, he was brave, he could tackle, he could score goals, and he was a little bit old-fashioned centre midfield player. I certainly, at the end of my career, thought, yeah, he was the right player to pick, because he had a wonderful career. I always had a dream. I had a lot of belief that I could make it, and I think as a kid you have to have that. You get lots of setbacks in your career. Probably when I got into the team in the early 90s, it would be concentrate a little bit more, because it was a very much social scene then. A lot of going out, a lot of partying, a lot of enjoying yourself, and I probably didn't dedicate my first 2 or 3 years properly. I think as a youngster you need a lot of luck along the way as well. I mean, you've got to be talented. You've got to have you've got to be able to do your job wherever you play, whether you're centre half, centre midfield, centre forward. But you get a lot of knocks along the way, and sometimes you have to be very confident in your own ability, but also you need to play well at the right times, because the old days when I got into the team in 1990, there was only 18 or 19 in the squad. So the reserve league at the time, and Jules Graham, my manager, would probably watch 5 or 6 reserve games for the season, and we'd play probably 15, 20. So when he was watching the game, you had to play well, because he was always in the back of his mind then. And lucky enough, I always seemed to have a really good game when Jules Graham was watching, and so he straight away thought, well, he's not bad, that kid in midfield. When there was an opportunity for a midfielder who's ill or injured, right, we give him a go, put him in the squad. And that's how I got my lucky break sometimes. It's a sort of headline you're not proud of. I mean, you're a young kid, you're away with the first team, and it was a big drinking school at the time at Arsenal. The likes of the players, the older pros. I was lucky enough, they said, you can come out with us now, you're in the first team, which was going, wow, this is amazing. This is what you do when you're a first team player. But we was in Hong Kong on tour, And I think we had to be on a coach at 8:30 in the morning to go home, back to London. And we was walking through the Triad area, going back to the hotel, and it was about 7 o'clock in the morning. And it was me, Tony Adams, a few others. And I don't know what happened. And next minute we're getting attacked a little bit, and I'm thinking, wow, this is a nightmare. What's going on here? And something happened over there. And next minute, you know, I'm being arrested. A few of the other players slipped off down the alleyway, got away with it. Again, now I'm getting taken into police custody. I went back to the police station. I was supposed to be on the coach now, going home, and now I'm in the police station in a cell. So that wasn't ideal as a kid, and at that time my ex-wife was pregnant with my first child, and I couldn't even speak to her to say I won't be home. Suddenly you think, oh no, this is it. I might be out of the club now because you've let the club down. Arsenal's, you know, you've got to be proud to play for Arsenal, but you also got to be disciplined. Because it's Arsenal Football Club who are damaged when one of their players do something wrong. I remember the guy coming up, the lawyer coming up and saying, well, you know, it's a big thing what you've done in Hong Kong. You could get prison. You can get prison for like 3-4 months here. I went, oh no, you're joking. I got a fine in the end, and you know, it wasn't a big fine. Next minute, I'm on the plane going home. But the funny story about that was one of the travel managers had to stay behind and wait for me for 2 days, and he was fuming because he wanted to go home. He's had enough of this trip, and I had to cheat to ask him on a plane, should we have a few beers on the way back? And he went, beers? You've ruined my last 2 days. The manager's gonna go crazy, and in the end I didn't have a beer. But yeah, it was a bad time. I got fined 2 weeks' wages, which I expected, but the big thing that hit me hard was the lawyer's fees, because Arsenal weren't going to pay for it, and they had the top lawyer in Hong Kong to get me off, and I think it was about £12,000–13,000 at the time, and I was on about £300 a week. So that took me a long time to pay that off, and trying to teach you a lesson, simple. So I certainly learnt my lesson after that, and I towed the line a little bit more after that. Well, I got in a little bit of trouble after that. In pizza. What was it? Pizza Hut. I think we let a fire extinguisher off, and a few stupid things, but nothing that serious. I think you just mixed up too much drink sometimes. You regret sometimes after you've had a good drink. But it was one of them sort of times where everybody was going out, and every team was doing it. It wasn't just Arsenal. Most teams were going out at the weekend or going out during the week. But that was the era that you was brought up in, and you know, got an opportunity to go with the first team. But you look back at it now and regret it, but also as long as you learn from it as well, which I did in the end. Well, that story relating to pre-season. You know, that first pre-season we went to Geneva. So the lads haven't drunk for 13 days, and you know, it was really hard training. And Arsene Wenger was a master at pre-season. He used to get you ready, prepared. Block 1 was pretty easy. Block 2 was obviously a little bit harder. Then the third block was going on tour. That was really hard work. I mean, proper training sessions, twice a day sometimes, 3 times a day sometimes. And the lads were like, wanted a night out really towards the end of it. And we had a brilliant tour, we really did. We was all getting fit. So the last day of the tour, a few of the lads go, right, should we go and have a beer today? And Arsene Wenger said, look lads, you've been superb. You've done everything I wanted you to do. You've worked really hard. You can do whatever you like tonight. So the English lads, or the British lads at the time, we saw this pub down the road. So we thought, wow, we're going to have a few pints. That's perfect. And the French lads didn't really drink. So they went, right, we're going to go down a coffee shop and have a few coffees. So Jules Gamondi was a player, a French guy, a French player. And he said, lads, would you mind if I come out with you guys tonight to see what the English guys get up to when you go out? I said, Jules, you'll have a great time. Come out with us. So we walked up the road, 200 yards. There's the pub. Walk in. Steve Bold at the front of the, just going to go to the bar. So he looks around and says to Jules, come on, do you want to drink, Jules? He went, yeah, I'll have a small glass of wine. So Steve Bold has now asked the barman for 35 pints and 1 small glass of wine. And there's only 5 of us in there. So Jules and Mondi, they're all lined up. And Jules going, who else is coming? You expecting to meet anybody else? He said, no, these are 7 each. We've got 7 each today. And he couldn't believe that we were more or less drunk the first 2 very quickly, because we hadn't had a drink for 13 days. Anyway, as we come out of the pub, we're going to another pub now. As we're walking down the road, all the French guys, a lot of the French guys liked a cigarette. So I never smoked in my life. So I looked across and I went, oh no, we've had too much drink and they're all smoking. How are we going to win the league this year? We end up winning a double. So just a stupid little story. But again, when Arsene Wenger came in, you had to be a lot more disciplined. At that time, Tony had him to give up drinking, 1996. So everything was changing in football in general, where you had to look after yourself a little bit more. Arsene Wenger's training methods were superb. No disrespect to my other managers, but he really set you out. And I always say the manager's job during the week is Monday to Friday. As soon as you get to a Saturday, you should know exactly what your job is for the team, and you go and do that on the pitch. If you don't do your job, then you let other people down on the pitch alongside you. So, I thought he was a master at getting you ready for that game at the weekend. And then it's down to the player. But he's definitely changed a lot of. I think football in general, though, it wasn't just Arsene Wenger. I think football in general was changing, and you had to be a lot more professional. I think the players have changed. I mean, in my team, we had a lot of players who motivate each other. Now, I think that this era, I think the players need to be pushed by managers more. They need to be motivated by the managers, pushed by the managers. And you can see the sort of managers who are doing well at the moment. Pep Guardiola, who pushes players. You've got Jurgen Klopp, who's really animated on the side. You've got now Emre, who's really pushing his players. I've seen it in pre-season with Arsenal. He's really getting the most he can out of these players now. So I think football in general has changed. And I don't think Arsene Wenger had that mentality to push players as much as he'd like. And I think that's why he was coming a little bit stale and a little bit old-fashioned. He would never argue after a game. He would never come down and have a go at players. He would go away and he was very structured how he had a go at you. On a Monday morning, we'd come in, he's watched the video 4 or 5 times now. He knows exactly whose fault it is, why we conceded a goal or lost the game. And he'll start a meeting off and say, right, where was you for the goal? And I might say, if it was me, he was out of position, I'm covering him, so it's his fault. And then we have a bit of an argument. But it was all constructive. It was all very much, we weren't vindictive, we weren't just having a go at each other for the sake of it. After that, we'll shake hands, don't let it happen again. For me, Arsene Wenger, he certainly helped my career going forward. He made me a better player. He brought good players in who made you a better player as well. But training methods, and he gave you a lot of belief. He let you go out and play. You still had to be disciplined at times, but you knew exactly you could go out and really express yourself. Well, it was a story where Ireland Jury, obviously Glenn Hoddle was manager at the time, and again I got injured in training one day, and I always knew when I was properly injured. Certain injuries you can run off, certain injuries you can have an anti-inflammatory, and next day you'd be fine. But I knew I pulled something. I think it was my calf muscle at the time. So I've gone in to see Gary Lewin, and he knew what I was like. This is 97-98 season. He said to me, look, Ray, you have to go for a scan and see how bad it is. So that's the normal thing you do when you pull a muscle, or just to see the extent of the injury. So I was just about to walk out the room, and Glenn was walking in. And Glenn was a great coach, very good coach, but man management skills wasn't the best. So as I was walking out, he said, before you go for your scan, I want you to go and see my faith healer, Ireland Drury. And I didn't know who Ireland Drury was. Who's that? So Robbie Fowler was sitting next to me, started laughing. So next minute, Gary says, yes, boss, I'll send him straight up. So I'll go upstairs, find her room, walk into her room. She says, sit on the chair. Very similar to what I'm sitting on now. So I walk in and she pulls the curtains. She starts walking around. And all of a sudden, she puts her hands on the back of my head. And I had longer hair there then, in that era. So I said, short back and sides, Eileen, while you're there, just mucking about. So she starts laughing, don't think nothing of it. In the meantime, her husband was downstairs. She's gone down and told him the story. He's told a few of the players. Players have told different sort of people. Next minute, I'll get back fit again. I was only out for 2 weeks. I'm playing really well for Arsenal. It's in the back pages of the newspaper, short back and sides, because the press were after this Ireland Jury. Who is she? What does she do? And now someone's leaked that I've said that to her, which isn't great. It's not good, obviously, seeing that in the back papers. So the next squad comes out, and all the names are playing really well for Arsenal at the time. I'm not in the squad. So Arsene Wenger's like, why are you not in the squad? I said, boss, I think something I said to the faith healer, Ireland Jury. So didn't think nothing of it. Arsene Wenger went, no chance. He's looking at all the players. You have to get in the next squad. And this is a squad you had to go to La Manga, where Gaza ended up smashing the room up when he was left out of the 25. I wasn't even in the 30 to go to La Manga. So now Arsene Wenger's ended up phoning Glenn Hoddle, why is Ray not in the squad? And he said he disrespected my faith. And that was it. That was the end of my England reign under Glenn Hoddle. And that season, obviously we won a double, got player of the season at Arsenal, and it was a big opportunity for me to go to the World Cup. I might not have played, but you're still travelling with the team. You've only got to get a little bit of luck if you're sub and get on the pitch and score a goal or make something happen. But I didn't get my opportunity, so very, very disappointed in that. Obviously, Glenn Hoddle the following season got sacked, and then Kevin Keegan come in. I got straight back in the team. So, you know, and that's what Arsene Wenger said. This is our, you know, what cutthroat business you're in. When you get dropped, you want to hope that manager gets sacked, so you get another opportunity, and that's what Arsene Wenger said. You want to hope Glenn Hoddle will get sacked, and you might get back in the England team. He might say, "Look, you was never in my plans." You know, I don't know, but I was playing so well, and I was in squads before that, and just the whole season itself. I think I got man of the match in the cup final, Newcastle, and that's when the press went for it. How comes he's not in the England squad? This is a disgrace. And I look back at it now, and it must have been a reason why I wasn't in it, because I upset probably Glenn Hoddle. But you know, that's football. You get your ups and downs. Being a footballer is like a roller coaster. You know, you go highs 1 minute, you're winning trophies. Next minute you have a low, you drop, you get injured. So you just had to deal with that situation, and you know, I made sure the following season I worked even harder, and I managed to get back into the England squad after Glenn left. That's mostly the proudest thing, the proudest moments playing for your country. You know, there's only a small group of players can play for their country, 22, 23 players who are in the squad. So you're a very proud man when you get picked. And you know, you can't beat it. It's great winning trophies and playing for your club level, but you know, it's brilliant that you can play for your country, and I'm so pleased that I played 10 times. Well, yeah, Martin was a great guy, but he was very easy to, you know, but dressing room areas is a lot of banter. You know, you can never bite. People always have a go at you, and you know, not in a vindictive way, in a funny way. And I was always one of them sort of guys who wound people up in a nice way though, and the players knew that. But Martin was one of the guys who always used to buy it easy. You know, he was a great character to have in the dressing room area. He's very opinionated, but obviously when trialists were coming in, you don't want a centre half. You don't want a trialist in your position, or you don't want to buy players in your position because you know now am I going to be playing? So any trialist we had at centre half, because Martin was a little bit always worried about if he's going to play or not. One day we just said, right, let's have a little wind up. And we had a trialist, Igor Stepanovs. We was on tour, and we were sitting along the bench, and every single pass he made was all clapping him, all the players going, what a player this guy is, and this, that, whatever, to try and get a bite out of Martin. And in the end, we got the bite in the second half. Dennis Bergkamp was the one. He's the biggest wind-up merchant going. Yeah, he was. Yeah, which people don't expect from Dennis, but he loved all the banter and having a bit of fun. And he ended up signing Igor on a 3 or 4 year contract. So, you know, I think Arsene Wenger was listening to all the lads along the bench, especially Dennis Bergkamp says, what a player. They're going to sign him whatever happens. But really, he wasn't the best player, but he was a really nice guy, Igor. He signed for a 4 year contract. And he played in that famous game when we lost 6-1 to Manchester United, and we had no centre-halves fit except Igor Stepanovs, and it was one of his better games. But he was a good guy, but that was a bit of banter we had, and they ended up signing for, I think, about £100,000. He ended up staying there for 4 years and stayed the whole of his contract. And but he was a really good guy, but it was only to iron Martin Keane up that he probably got his opportunity. So when you need a bit of luck in football, he probably certainly got it. I mean, a lot of the French guys come in, and the foreign guys, and when they played in Italy, it was very serious. They train and they go home. But in England, we always said, look, we're going to have lunch together. We all sit together. We can talk about normal things in life, and we just muck about a little bit, you know. And I think that gives you a bit of team spirit as well, and a bit of togetherness, which is so important in football. And the foreign guys loved it. They really loved it. The French guys and Dennis and Mark Overmars when they first turned up. So I think that helped us being successful as well. They couldn't believe what we used to do. I mean, you know, after training, mucking about. And Arsene Wenger loved it as well. He really, because when you're training for that hour, probably 1.5 hours, you have to really work hard. You have to concentrate. You have to make sure you know exactly what your job is and do it to a good standard. But when you finish your training, you should have a bit of fun. You know, if you're thinking about football all day, every day, the pressure will keep growing and growing and growing when you've got big games. And that was the banter we had. And I think sometimes you've got to forget about football and talk about normal things, like, you know, your children or things that were happening in the news at the time. So I think that's what the balance we had was perfect. Yes, injuries. I mean, I had my cartilage out at 21, 22. I had a little tear in it, and they used to cut around it and and then I done it again when I was about 23, 24. And Gary Lewin, our physio, said you'll be lucky to make 30 because, you know, your sort of position you're in, you're a midfielder, you do a lot of mileage during the game, and whether your knee can hold up till 30, 31, you'll be lucky. It really became a problem probably 32, 33. Which was, you know, overestimated what I would make to 33, 34. And I was lucky I played 15 games for Hull City in the Championship, but then it used to swell up every game. I mean, you know, I'd say ice packs after the game. And in that league, it was Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday on most weeks. So by Monday afternoon, it's just about to go down again. Then I've got a game Tuesday and it swell up again. By Friday, it's just going down again. And you play the game, but I'm really pleased I played towards the end and I played in the Championship. But in the end, I've just thought, well, you know, it's not worth putting my body through this if you're not enjoying it. And my body was really, my hip was hurting me. I've got a slight tear in that still. And it's just wear and tear. You know, you're like an old car. You know, as you get older, a few more things go wrong with it. So it's expected. If someone said to me at 17, you can have a bad knee when you're older, you can have a bad hip, but you're going to play in cup finals and win medals and play successful football, then I'll snap their hand off. So, you know, you've got to expect that now. When you get into your 30s, 32, 33, you've got to have a little bit of an idea what you want to do, whether it's coaching, whether it's going to be a manager, going to management, coaching, whether you're going to go into media, whether you're going to get a business, whether you're going to go, you know, whatever angle you want to take, you've got to start putting it together while you're still playing. And I was always interested in, because I love football, I would always watch every single football match at home. You know, if there was sport on, I love sport and in general. So I always was interested in maybe I would like to go and watch football after I'm finished and get into the media side of it. Luckily I got an opportunity to talk sport and never looked back really. And I'm probably in the second best job now because you get paid well for being a footballer and you're playing. But when you can't be a footballer anymore, I get paid now to watch football, which is it's a great job as well. If I didn't make it, I probably would have gone down what my brother did, black cab driver or something like that. And my dad was a black cab driver in the end, so I would have definitely probably gone down that sort of route and tried to do the knowledge probably, and maybe be a black cab driver. Hard work, belief, and good coaching. I mean, I had an excellent coach in Pat Rice who drove you every day. I mean, proper. Worked you hard, and if you wasn't doing your job and working hard, he would tell you straight away into your face if you want to be a footballer. So he drove you, but you also got to have belief and talent, and you've got to be confident in what you're doing. So I think that would be the main why I did make it as a footballer. And I always tell the youngsters now, you know, if you want to be a top little player, keep practicing as much as you can. And hopefully and have a dream and have belief that you are good enough to make it. You know, I see players now and they've got their mates, remember, normal mates from school, they're all going out and living normal lives, but you can't do that as a football player. You've got to discipline yourself. You know, at 35 you can go out and enjoy yourself and have a good time, but while you're being a footballer, you've got to really dedicate yourself and your body to being a professional footballer.